Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. More specifically, we've been dealing with a special encounter that the viewer wanted, in which, in particular circumstances, a new enemy will enter the battlefield behind the player character and any companions, cutting off their retreat. And as a result of that happening, we need to change some of the code to make sure that the movement works as the viewer whose game this is going to be wants it to work. In particular, they don't want the player character or their companions to be able to move into the same range band as any enemy. And we've done that for the normal situation in which the enemies are in front of the good guys, but we need to add extra code for this special circumstance where there's one behind them. So in the previous video, I did this for the player character, but because we're coding the movement and the actions of the companions, the player character, and the enemies in sort of three separate sections, we needed to do it separately for the companions. So as you can see, I've started a combat here. I've run it for a little while. Before I started recording, the player character gave the companion the order to retreat, meaning that on their go, they will want to move from where they are now to in here, which they shouldn't be able to do because the enemy is there. And if we look at the report on what they've done, we can see that it says Companion 1 stands up. Companion 1 wants to move back but is blocked by the new giant mosquito. In other words, we have put in that code that stops the companions breaking the desired rules for movement. And so when we press that, the combat continues as normal. So, as usual, I would like to spend the rest of the video showing you how that works. So we've got the player character stuff over here, the companion stuff here, and then further to the right, the enemy stuff. This new code is of course going to be in the companion section in the middle. And it's going to be in two different places because the companions can move based on the default behavior, but also the player characters can give companions orders, which if they are successful in giving their orders, and usually that involves a roll and some other factors being added up and stuff, but if that's successful, that makes the companions behave in a different manner to the default. So we have a passage for that where we need to code it separately. So let's look at the default one first. The way that we do it is almost identical in both cases. It's just that we have to sort of do it in two different spots, unfortunately. So the way the companions move is we roll 2 dice, or we simulate rolling 2 dice. We compare that to their hit points. If it's greater than their hit points, they want to move backwards. So from range band 0 to range band -1, from range band 3 to range band 2, whatever. If it's less than or equal to their hit points, they want to move forward. So from range band 1 to range band 2, or from 2 to 3, or 0 to 1, or whatever. And so this hopefully means that on average, they will tend to want to go into battle when they've got high hit points and retreat from the battle when they have low hit points, which is a sort of semi-realistic behavior. We are concerned with the situation where the roll is higher than their current hit points, and therefore they want to move backwards, because they might move backwards into this new giant mosquito. So what do? Well, it's pretty straightforward. We just have a single line that says if all of these conditions are met, then that's the situation where they want to move back but can't, and we just put that in this if, else if, else slash if structure that we have here already. Within this, if y is greater than com I and I underscore who 2. Y being the role that we made, com being the array that keeps track of a lot of stuff about the companions, I and I underscore who standing for who has initiative, and in this case it's a companion. If we get to this passage, it's a companion moving, and $com, which of course stands for companions, something 2 being the hit points. So that this line means if the roll that we got is greater than the current hit points of the companion that we're currently looking at. We ask ourselves this: if enemy underscore num is equal to 15, that means the number of enemies at the start of the combat. If it's equal to 15, we know that we're in this special encounter because the maximum number is otherwise 14. So if that's the case, and enemy 15.2 is greater than 0, well, just as com something 2 is the hit points of a given companion, NME, standing for enemy, something 2 is the hit points of a given enemy. Often the slots in $com and $NME, the same numbered slot means the same thing in a lot of cases. So this is just saying this new enemy, enemy 15, is still alive. And this is sort of the important one, if com I and I underscore who 3 is equal to NME 15.3 plus 1, which means that the companion is directly, sort of one range band directly in front of this new enemy. So they're one in front of this new enemy and they want to move backwards. But of course they can't move backwards because the new enemy is blocking the way. And if that's the case, we give the message, because we've already said companion, and might say companion 1 rolls a 10, for example. And then we add to that, and so wants to retreat, but is blocked by the new giant mosquito. And that will mean that they don't do anything. As you can see, there's no variables that change, so it just means they've sort of wasted an action. In the fiction of the game, they're looking around going, I want to get out of here, but this giant mosquito's in the way. All right. The other place we do it is over here in other orders. Other meaning orders other than the charge order, because the charge order seems to work as coded. Let's look at other orders. We do something very similar. We have an existing, it used to look like this. Oops. It used to sort of start here and look like that, but we change that to an else if, and then we put a new if sort of in the front. And it's virtually identical at the start. If enemy underscore num is equal to 15 and enemy 15.2 is over 0 and com I and I underscore who 3 is equal to enemy 15.3 plus 1. In fact, I don't think that's virtually identical. I think that actually is identical. Let me have a look. Yep. So it is in fact identical code up to there. And there's another bit here which says, and com I and I underscore who 3 is greater than Z. So the companion's current location is greater than Z. So what does that mean? Well, if we get to this, this passage, we have set a value in the temporary variable Z, which is the desired location of this companion. So do they want to move? Let's say they might be in band 3 and want to move to band 0 or something like that. If this is the case, if their location is greater than the target, well, that means they're going to move back. They're going to reduce the number of their location by 1. And because this is the case, they shouldn't be allowed to do that, because that would be moving them to the exact place where this new enemy is. And as we've already said, we don't want to allow the companions to be in the same range band as an enemy. So if that is the case, if all of these conditions are met, we say companion I and I underscore who wants to move back but is blocked by the new giant mosquito. So basically the same message, a couple of line breaks there. We go to the next action. So again, their action is looking around and seeing that they're trapped and sort of wasting their move. And that is all we need to do to make that happen. Now, there is a slight possibility of a somewhat a situation which I think is I don't think is going to happen, but it seems like maybe it could, or it might occur to you that it could. And that is, what if we have the mosquito that's come in from behind, then we have the companion, then we have an empty space. You might say, well, shouldn't the companion retreat by going forward? In other words, shouldn't they retreat from this new enemy by heading up this way? And I think from testing the combat, I don't think that that is going to happen, because it seems there's quite a lot of enemies in this particular encounter, and it seems like they, as soon as you kill one, another one will sort of come in to fill the gap. But I do have to test it further to see if that's true. There might be some weird situations where they want to effectively retreat, get away from the enemies, but they want to retreat by going up. So I have to look at that that situation. I have to look further at the combat, test the combat further to see if that happens, and then if it does, code for it. Because of course you shouldn't ever look at code and go, yep, it looks like it does what I want it to do, or at least that shouldn't be the end of it. The next stage is, well, I have to test it and see if it really does do what I want it to do, and to see if there's not some situation you haven't thought of, because often there will be. And testing is always the sort of, should be the ultimate test. It's not finished when it looks finished. It's finished when you test it and it continues to work. But for now, I'm pretty sure that what I've done will be okay for that, and therefore I'm pretty sure that I have done all the code that I need for this particular special encounter. The person who I'm making this game for has another special encounter that they want me to code. And that's probably what I'm going to do next. It involves a sort of a time limit, so you have to keep track of how many turns everyone's had, and something bad happens if they don't win the combat within a specific time. I haven't looked at how it's going to work in detail yet, because I've been working on this, but that is probably what I'm going to do next. But for now, I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.